If you hate taking sales calls, it's not because you suck at sales, it's because no one ever actually taught you how to do them properly. The first time I started taking calls, I did 40 calls in 4 days and only closed 5 of them. I walked away thinking I hated sales, but the truth was I just didn't know how to sell yet. You're not bad at sales, you just don't have the right script. So I went back, studied every call, and figured out what actually turned strangers into paying clients. That script is a huge reason why I was able to grow to over $1 million a year, 3 years in a row after that. Now I know what you're thinking. Julia, scripts feel robotic. They don't work for my niche. I've tried them before. Or they always need to talk to their husband. Pause for a second and think about the business you want. The freedom, the peace, the sustainability. Everything you want is on the other side of having a really great script. What I'm about to show you isn't a copy-paste template, it's a psychology-backed framework that turns strangers into buyers by asking the right questions in the right order. But before I show you the script that changed everything, you need to understand why most sales calls fail in the first place. You see, most people treat a sales call like a discovery session, and even though there's some small element of truth to that, you have to stop asking surface level questions. What do you want? Or what are your goals? These are extremely basic questions that don't give you any leverage to actually close the deal. A real sales call is where you actually give someone massive value for free, and then the sale is just saying, do you need help implementing what I just taught you and told you? Because the truth is, people can pretty much do anything on their own. They can lose weight on their own, they can work out on their own, they can get their mind right on their own. But why do they actually pay coaches and mentors? Because they need help with accountability and implementation, and that's what you're selling. So before we hop into the first part of the sales call, which is gonna be the frame, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to hold it properly, I actually made a 28-page DM to sale playbook to show you how you can get organic qualified leads that are in your Instagram DMs actually onto a call and have them sell themselves. So go ahead and check the first link in the description. Now let's get into the first part of the script. I always start with something light, but I keep it just 1 to 2 sentences. Hey, where are you calling in from? Or where are you based out of in the world? Then I set the frame to take control of the conversation and make sure that this doesn't turn into some networking session or some free coaching session. Hey, Susie, I'm really excited to jump into this with you. We've got about 30 to 45 minutes. I want to make sure that we go through your business. I learn a little bit more about what you do. And then from there, I'll ask you some questions, give you a little bit of an audit. And then if it sounds like I can help you beyond the free business audit, we could take a look at what it would look like to work together. And I could share a little bit more about my academy, but only if we see it's a fit. How does that sound? They always kind of feel like that was a no-brainer thing. And it's really great because you're setting the frame up front that you are gonna pitch something at the end of this call. So now you're gonna start getting into the actual script, but the real magic isn't using the script exactly word for word every single time. And honestly, this is only something I learned way too late. The more you can actually prep 10 to 15 minutes for the call and make the script custom to their situation, it makes all the difference in the world. So let's, for example, take a client, Brittany. She signed up on New Year's Day, and within her first month working with us, she closed 7 high-ticket deals. Now, I don't just believe it's because the sales call went extremely well. It was because I knew she was the right avatar and I knew this was going to be the right program for her, and she had a ton of buy-in even before she said yes to the program. One thing that Brittany did was she actually spoke to some of our best testimonials before she jumped on the call. So for example, one of our clients, Harley, was in the same niche as her, so she spoke with Harley before she got on the call, so she was pretty much already sold from that conversation that the sales call was what we would call a layup. So not only was she sold before the call, but I was actually able to personalize the script and tell her, hey, so I know you spoke with Harley before this, right? And it drops authority that our testimonials aren't just screenshots on a page. You can actually go and reach out to those people, get feedback, and learn before you get on the call. And it builds that trust and that authority early on. Now, once you've set the frame and you've personalized the intro a little bit, you want to get into their current situation. There's a huge problem that I notice people do here, and I've coached this hundreds of times, so make sure you don't do this on the call. So typically when somebody goes into their current situation, they kind of ramble and tell you their whole life story. So you want to prevent that at all costs, and you want to get the information you exactly need. So for example, when you ask someone this, you can say, give me the 30-second version of who you are, what you do, and how you help people get the blank result you told me in your application. So now it's custom, but you've also given them the frame of tell me this in 30 seconds. So are they really going to tell you in 30 seconds? Probably not. But if they could keep it in 1 to 2 minutes, you're going to avoid that ramble where you actually have to start cutting people off, because once we get you booked and busy, you're going to have sales calls back to back. You can't be on a sales call for 2 hours with everybody. 90% of the time, they're not even going to tell you exactly what you needed, so you have to go deeper. So for example, we're helping business owners, and we cannot help a business grow if we don't know exactly where their revenue was at for the last 90 days. So sometimes they'll say, oh, I'm a baby sleep coach and I help moms get their kids to sleep through the night, and I help them with my 2-week program. They tell you about all the modules and all of that. So then I just asked them one simple follow-up question. Great, so where was your revenue at the last 90 days? Now, one of two things happen here. Number one, they're realizing they haven't actually looked at their revenue in the last 90 days, which shows them that they're not even treating their business as seriously as they thought they were. But then number two is that they're kind of confronted with the reality and the hard truth. So this could work for any niche. If you're in the baby sleep coach niche, you could say, so how many hours of sleep are you getting on average per night, right? If you're in the fitness niche, okay, about how many pounds do you weigh right now and where do you want to get to, right? So you're literally helping them confront an actual data point of where they're at exactly right now. And the most important part of this all is that you do not go into solving this right away. I know that it can feel like, okay, you're only making $3,000 a month and you want to get to 10,000, you want to start coaching them. Do not do that. Follow the fucking script. This is the mantra that we have with our team, because if you start solving it for them and you start coaching them, you lose the frame and the control of the conversation. So remember, this is an audit, not just a chat. And this is what makes a really great closer versus a bad closer. And that is actually digging deep, which goes into my next point and the next part of the script, where you need to understand the specifics. So what I mean by that is, in our business audits, we have to understand what you're selling, at what price point, and what you do to actually get your leads right now. Because we are selling people a content to client lead acquisition and conversion system. So we have to understand where they are currently at. So if somebody's selling a $27 product, no shit, they're not at 10K a month, right? So we have to then actually sell them on selling a high ticket offer, not just sell them on converting, right? Every question that you ask somebody should be building ammunition for you to fire the cannon when you go to convert. And remember, you're not solving it right away. So here's where you want to ask yourself, what are the 3 specific things that I need to ask in this portion of the call after I get the data point of where they're currently at, so that you can actually help them by the end of this call and show them what they're not seeing for themselves. And now that you've gotten enough information from their current situation, you actually want to jump to their desired. And here's where the psychology really comes into play here, because oftentimes you think, well, I didn't solve their problem, or I didn't coach them, I didn't give them value. You're actually giving them a moment to sit with the fact that they're not where they want to be yet. And think about it. If you compare where you're currently at to where you want to be at, you start to realize that there's a really big gap and you need help with that. So one question I love to ask is, so let's say we were talking about a year from now. Where would you like to be if you were looking backwards and you were saying, Julia, this was my best year ever? So now they're actually getting a visual and an image inside their head, and they're not just thinking about some vanity metric. And then you want to dig deeper. Remember, this is the common thread in all sections of the script. So what would that change for you personally if you started making $10,000 a month? And then you start to realize, guys, it was never about the money. It was about the freedom to travel. It was about more time with their kids. That's the real reason they're gonna buy, not about the figure that you're gonna overpromise them. This is the part that I feel a lot of salespeople skip over, and I really need you to listen up here. So after you talk about the current and the desired, they need to reveal to you what is the gap. So once again, the best salespeople are the ones that talk the least and allow people to come to their own conclusions. You're just holding up a mirror and you're just reflecting so that somebody could see the thing within themselves. What you can say to them is, okay, so you're currently at $5,000 a month. You want to get to $20,000 a month. You want to have the freedom to travel. You want to spend more time with your kids. What's holding you back from achieving that on your own? And I think this is very powerful because once again, anybody could look up a strategy on ChatGPT or Instagram or YouTube. What they're actually getting at is self-admission of why they have not been able to achieve the thing themselves yet. But once again, you have to hold strong and tight and just make sure you are not going into fixer or problem solver mode. You're just listening, but you're actively listening. And by this point, you should be taking notes and you should be thinking about what you're going to use to formulate your pitch. So at this point in the script, you have their current situation, their desired situation, the gap of why they're not yet where they want to be. So now it's time for your pitch. And here is where most closers go wrong. You start to just ramble, memorize your pitch, and you think it's like some elevator pitch for an interview. But the truth is, every person that joins a sales call is only there for one specific reason. It is your job to figure out that one reason, which is the number one thing that they want, and then you customize the pitch to what they told you. So even if you prepare the pitch ahead of time from the application and what they shared, you need to be taking the notes that you wrote down and formulating it into your pitch. My pitch reads a little something like this. Okay, so we run a 16-week academy, and what we help people do is ABC, X, Y, and Z. But first, I want to actually go over your business and the 3 biggest gaps that I'm seeing. And that's where throughout the conversation, you should have been taking notes about the 3 biggest constraints you're seeing and where they're currently at. So once you diagnose and you tell them now their constraints, you then tie that to your pitch. So for example, I could say, hey, Brittany, the problem is you're selling a $397 offer. So for you to actually make $10,000 a month, you got to sell a lot of those things. And with an audience of your size, you're either going to have to spend a ton of money on paid ads or you're going to have to do a ton of cold outreach. So instead, what I would recommend is that we actually take time to build your organic personal brand, because if you could generate 50 leads a week, that could get you 3 to 5 sales calls a week, and then that can make you X dollars per month at Y price point. And this is exactly what we install inside the Creator to Cashflow Academy over 16 weeks. Would you be open to hearing a little bit more about how that could work for you? Now they're intrigued because they feel like you just solved or you just understood the problem better than I could articulate it myself. So now you're actually able to give a viable pitch where somebody's listening because they see a ton of value in everything that you just shared. So now for the most important part, before you go into the close, and this is something I just started doing recently, was I start to get a pulse check. So I make it really tangible and I say, okay, Susie, so 1 to 10, how's this feeling for you so far? Now, if they say an 8 or higher, I go right into the investment and I go right into the pitch. If they say anything under an 8, right, a 7 or lower, then I get to the reason and I say, oh, that's interesting. What would make it an 8 or a 9 or even a 10? Sometimes they're like, I just don't know the price yet and I'm a little bit nervous there. But other times it's something else that you haven't addressed yet. Now, this is so great because the truth is in sales, you cannot say the price until someone's ready to hear it. I typically wait until they ask the price, but even better yet, if you've already started answering questions about the program and how it works and whatever they mention, you have to make sure you get through everything until they get to an 8 or a 9. If they're not an 8 or a 9, I just don't even pitch it. So now when it comes to your investment and your close, you want to use the strategy that works best for you. So there's a few different strategies that you can use when it comes to the investment and the close. So the investment specifically, you could use a price anchor. So you can say, hey, my program's normally $3,000, but if you sign up today, it's $2,000. And that could be like a fast action savings. Another thing you do is you could add bonuses. You could say, okay, so the typical 16-week program is $4,000. But if you sign up with me on this call, if you sign up in the next 24 hours, if you sign up by X date, then you'll also get bonus 1, 2, and 3, and you could go into those bonuses. So what's most important when it comes to the investment is that you have to give people a reason to buy now. If you're selling evergreen, you don't have the same urgency like a live launch or a live webinar or just a live promotion in general. So what is your reason for someone to buy? So you can look at seasonality, right? Are you a relationship coach and you're selling something in February around Valentine's Day? Are you a fitness coach and you're capitalizing on the new year? After the investment, one of three things could happen. So number one is they just say no straight up. This is pretty rare, and usually people don't just say no right on the call. Second option is they say yes, and it's great, and you say, great, is that gonna be Visa or MasterCard? And you jump right into it, do not fumble, and do not overspeak after they say yes. Then, number three is they give you a maybe. What we want to avoid in sales is always a maybe. So we follow a saying internally that is BAM FAM. Book a meeting from a meeting. You never get off the call without the next step locked in. So whether they need 24 hours, they need 5 days, you have to decide your policy and what you're going to accept. But you have to make sure you do not accept a maybe, because maybes are what die in the middle. It has to be a clean yes, not this round, or we're gonna meet at this next step. So if you follow this framework, I know you are gonna close more deals, period. But if you wanna actually learn how to get more sales calls booked, I created an entire 28-page DM to sale playbook to show you exactly how we book qualified sales calls every single week onto our calendar and make over $1 million a year in high ticket sales. So go ahead and check the first link in the description for that. And better yet, if you want to actually learn sales directly from me and my team and want to learn how to get more high ticket clients from your personal brand, go ahead and click the link to apply for the Creator to Cashflow Academy. We'll learn a little bit more about your business and see if we can actually help you scale it to $250,000 a year plus in high ticket sales using organic content. So that's it for this video, but if you want to learn how to actually get leads from your social media and turn them into high ticket sales, you're going to want to watch this video next. I'll see you in the next one.